Welcome to the Atlanta Men's Workshop speaker and workshop recordings. Atlanta Men's Workshop is held every spring and fall at the Rock Eagle 4-H campus in Eatonton, Georgia. That's just about an hour east of Atlanta, Georgia. Please visit our website at atlantamensworkshop.com or see the link below to find dates and details to join us. Partial scholarships are available to those in need. We hope you enjoy this presentation, and we hope you will come join us at the Rock. Until then, we shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then.
I'll stand up for a minute. Good afternoon. My name is Ron B., and I'm an alcoholic. The reason he was speechless is he couldn't think of anything else good to say, so good time to stop. As Alan was saying, my wife and I, what we're presenting today is kind of a metamorphosis of working with our sponsees over the years, using other people's material. I did not write all the material that we're bringing to you. I assembled it. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a psychologist. I am a recovering alcoholic. We have a wonderful marriage because we have a recovery marriage focused on God, and that has helped us a lot. We've used the traditions for years and years with our sponsees and with our marriage, and it grew into this. I don't know, some of the old timers here may know Polly and Dave Pistol, who traveled the country for years and years doing a workshop similar to this. I contacted Polly last year, told her, TJ and I did, what was on our hearts, what we wanted to do, and she sent us all the material. We used some of that, and we have all of that available to you. In the handout on the last page, there's some books for reading that we found really, really helpful. On that page, you'll see my email. If you'd like to have the Pistols information, email me and I'll send that to you. I'd also invite you, this is so much better when TJ's a part of it. She's so much easier to look at than I am. And together we make a formidable team, I believe. So if you'd like to hear the presentation of this workshop we gave at Hilton Head earlier this year in South Carolina for the convention there, I can send you the recordings for that. It's a 2-hour deal. Today, I understand there's a softball game, there's other meetings. We're going to do our very best to get this done and presented within an hour. So I want to start with this video. It's kind of fun, it's kind of funny, but I think it very accurately depicts the picture that men and women have with communication. So let me roll that, you guys can watch it, and then we'll kick it off right after that.
Hello, and welcome to Laugh Your Way to a Better Marriage. I'm so glad.
If you'd like to say that together with me. God, I offer my relationship to you to build with it and to do with it as you will. Relieve me from the bondage of self in my relationship, that I may better do your will. Take away my difficulties in my relationship, that victory over them will bear witness to those I would help of your power, your love, and your way of life. May I do your will always. If we were here with my wife, she would probably take 10 minutes or so to tell you about how we met and how we started dating and where I proposed to her and all that kind of stuff, but I realize that you don't care. And that's a woman thing, isn't it? The reality of it is we did not do it right. And I hope that by reading this material, and you can get a copy of this material both in print and I can email it to you if you'd like it. The reality is we hope that you will learn from the mistakes of others that's contained in this material so you don't have to repeat. Frankly, we were dating very quickly. We moved, what's the joke? What comes on the third date of an AA relationship?
Moving van.
You got it. It wasn't quite that bad, but it was close. And so what we want to give to you is some wisdom that other people have that we didn't have advantage of. Today we have a wonderful, wonderful marriage, and it's because we found that the traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous apply to relationships, and we want to share that with you. So I'm going to skip over some things just in the interest of time. I don't want to interfere with other meetings that are coming this afternoon. If you need to go, I understand, won't take it offense. I will take your name and talk to my sponsor about you. So a couple acronyms we thought were pretty cool. SERVE. Serve your partner's needs regardless of what you need, want, or understand. Put the other person first. Enjoy serving your partner with a joyful attitude. Reject scorekeeping and do it with a spirit of grace and faith. V. Diligently protect the priority of your union and serving of your partner. When we first got together, one of the things that we really agreed on, fortunately we had some sobriety behind us. I had 22 years, she had about 6, so I kind of robbed the cradle there. But she's also 8 years younger than me. Hoorah! And gorgeous. But I don't know how that happened. But one of the things we made very clear is our recovery had to come first, and we would come second. And for us, recovery is included in that is our relationship with God. So we have kept that model, and it's worked well for us. But expect to be blessed. In some of this material, you'll see that there's a 100% chance of success if you follow the rules, like that man was saying. If you follow these traditions and apply them to your relationship, if you both do it, that's the key, isn't it? So, major needs of men. I think you guys can relate to this. I sure do. And the major needs of women, they're different. They're different. Men need honor and respect. You need to feel that your wife, your woman, your partner honors you and respects you. They need to have security. Our second is sex. Now, this is people that have letters after their names, much smarter than I. This is what they have reported. Women, not so much the sex. They need a soft, non-sexual affection. I've read that 9 times, you need to touch your partner 9 times a day in a non-sexual way. That's a lot. But the payoff is great. Friendship, not mothering, is what men are looking for. Women want and crave open and honest communication. Domestic support, making a house a home. When we first met, I had a nice home, but it was just a house with furniture in it, and she made it a home. You know, how only the women can do, right? But the woman is needing your leadership. She's wanting your leadership, and we believe that they're built that way, not because they're weak, just because they're different. There's a couple books that we're recommending, and love these books. The 4 C's of relationships: chemistry, compatibility, commitment, and communication. If you have all 4 of those, man, you're rocking. If you have 3 of them, you can make it work. If you have 2 of them, you're in trouble. And if you're like me, before I grew up spiritually and grew up in this program, all I was looking for was chemistry, and it won't work. I mean, I took hostages, and we might have had great physical relationship, but we did not have a good, healthy, mature, nurturing relationship. The other book we really read is The 5 Love Languages. It's in the last page of your material there. The 4 languages. If you were to meet a woman who spoke a different language than you, you'd want someone to translate for you. You want to be able to communicate. The love languages teach us that all of us have different love languages, just the way we're made up. We went to a little seminar put on by a couple, and there was, 7 or 8 of us, and we took the test that this book recommends, and it'll identify your love language. And we were that couple. We have identical love languages right in the order. And that was just, God had a hand in our getting together, because I know that my picker's broke, and I picked wrong every time. But quality time, words of affirmation, physical touch, acts of service, receiving gifts. If my love language is receiving gifts, and my partner is just wanting to spend time with me, I'm not getting my love language. I'm not hearing that love. I'm not getting the way the author of that book describes getting my love tank filled up. So let's jump into the traditions. Now, in your material, there's a list of questions. We're not going to have time to go through those. Those are for for study with your partners. Hopefully when you go home, you can look over this material, and won't it be cool? You can tell your wives, your girlfriends, your partners that, hey, look, on my men's retreat, we talked about relationships and how I can be a better husband, a better spouse to you. And I might get some brownie points there. Okay, so AA Tradition 1. Our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. The Relationships Tradition 1 reads, our common welfare should come first. A healthy relationship depends upon our unity. Couple bullet points. I'm probably not going to read every one of them because I'm trying to hold to my commitment here for you. A unified program of Alcoholics Anonymous, there is only one program. It's contained in pages I through 164 of the Big Book. That's where you find the black words on the white pages. Your opinion of what it says is nearly not as important as what it actually says. There's one meaning behind those books the author meant when he wrote it. Our job is to find what that meaning was. Same thing is true if we look into our relationship. What is our common goal in our relationship? What's our plan together? Unity in a relationship means the two of you make one whole. If we can be divided, you can be conquered. There are people that will try to divide your relationship, try to divide your marriage. Sometimes I've met women who that's their goal, is to break up marriages, and I've known men that they do the same thing with marriages. So if we need to be unified in our relationship. We are unified. TJ and I, we share our finances. They're joint finances. It's a way that works for us. It's not our money, it's not our house, it's not my truck, it's not her car, it's ours. Everything is ours, and we think that's the right way to do it for us, and it works well. Mature conflict resolution, that's a learned art. There's no name calling. We have, in 10 years, we've never yelled at each other. We've never called names, and because of that, we don't have injuries that we have to clear up. I encourage you, if you're at a point in a new relationship or you're moving into a relationship, you're responsible for what comes out of your mouth. And you can't pull it back once it comes out. If you cause damage already, stop now, hit the reset button. We can start our day over anytime. We can start our sobriety over anytime. We can start our relationship over anytime. All we have to do is make that conscious decision. I already talked about the 4 C's, didn't we? Let's see. Neither of us speak for the relationship. That's the unifying part of our response. We speak for ourselves. Control and codependency versus courtesy and compromise. Here's a prayer I read that I thought was pretty cool. God, treat me today the way I treat my partner today. Or this one. God, help me not do anything today that I can't tell TJ about tomorrow. You know, I go to a lot of meetings and people need rides and so forth. As a personal decision, I will not give a lady a ride home by myself. It's not because I don't trust myself. It's not because I don't necessarily distrust her. It's I don't want it to appear that I'm running around town with other women when my wife's not there. That's just a matter of respect. I don't want her to be embarrassed or someone to call her and say, hey, what was Ron doing such and such? It's just my choice. It might be something you consider. The prayer of St. Francis is good for my marriage. I just see a typo there, so forgive me while we change that. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace, that where there is hatred I may bring love, that where there is wrong I may bring the spirit of forgiveness, and where there is discord I may bring harmony. You know, it does take work, like the man on the screen was talking about, but that work is so well worth the effort. Did I skip over tradition 2? There's a reason they're in order, isn't it? Must have jumped a page on me. There it is. I did. Okay, tradition 2. For our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God, as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern. Relationships tradition 2. For our relationship, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God, as he may express himself to us. Neither of us govern the relationship. We are equal servants to each other. Now, I want to say something real quick, just a qualifier. I'm not here to offend anybody. It's not my goal. It's not my desire. but I am here to speak the truth as I know it. I believe that the big book is written, and I think that the message of Alcoholics Anonymous is there. And one of the things that I see in the big book, is it's up on the screen, is the issue of God. Now, when I got here, I was not really thrilled with the issue of God. That was a growth. If you're still struggling with the issue of growth in your spiritual relationship, please don't allow this to be offensive to you. Don't allow it to push you out of here. I believe that our relationship with God is a growing thing. I don't believe it ever stops growing until we make that journey to the big meeting in the sky. So wherever you're at in that, it's great. But one of the things that I see now as I look at the big book, the black marks on the white pages, is the title God with a capital G, which is a personal pronoun, is mentioned 281 times in the first 164 pages of the big book. You can verify that yourself, get a digital copy of a big book and do a word search. The specific title God, in that 281 times, it's all the different pronouns that are used. The Creator, the Father of Lights, the different higher power, all those are capitalized, by the way. You can see them. That capitalization is a personal pronoun. I'm a writer by trade, and I study, I became a paralegal. You'll hear my story tomorrow, so I won't get into that. But it's my job to decipher word, find the meanings, and apply words in a way that when I read a case law, and I'm putting that in a brief, I can't put what my opinion is that case law means. I need to put what that case law means in there, because the judges, who are much smarter than me, will make that distinction for me if I don't. The big book in 12 and 12, the specific title God with a capital G is found 135 times. The big book authors, and if you read the story about Bill Wilson, he'll tell you that when Ebby came to his door, who became his first sponsor, Ebby said, you can form your own concept of God. He didn't say you could choose your own God. The big book says there is one that has all power. That one is God. It doesn't talk about a plurality of gods. It talks about God. Now, we can have different concepts of God, just like people have different concepts of who you are, but there's still just one you. You may, I'll just use myself as an example. I own a company. I have employees. They see me as their boss. My wife sees me as her boss. No, I won't say that. This is being recorded. My wife sees me as her husband, hopefully as her best friend. My sponsees see me as their sponsor. My sponsor sees me as his sponsee. But all those different concepts of me, it's still just me. That seems to work for me. It worked for me early in my sobriety, and I was able to open my mind and approach God on His terms. I don't see anywhere in the big book it says that I can make a doorknob a God. If I create anything, it has to be by necessity. If I create it, it has to be of lesser power than me. So that's just food for thought. Again, I don't mean to be offensive. I just try to share the truth, and hopefully that will give you something to think about. So God is the head of our relationship. Practicing joint prayer and spiritual development will draw us closer to God individually and closer to each other. Now on this East dry eraser up here, you can see my artistry at work. That's why I write for a living and I don't draw. Simple diagram, it means a lot to us. If you are in a relationship and you put yourself in one of those positions on the bottom of the base of that triangle, God is at the top. If you and your spouse or your partner are moving towards God, it's inevitable that you're going to move closer to each other. When we get in trouble is when we're on different spiritual paths, or one of us is on a spiritual path and the other one isn't. You, as a man in the relationship, it's your role, as I understand our roles, to lead the partnership towards God. Come into an agreement that what God's will is your relationship. We get to travel a lot. We believe that God's will for us right now is to carry the message of Alcoholics Anonymous to the best of our ability, as long as we can, while we can. I'm sure we fall short sometimes, but that's our goal. We have a common, unified goal. Find out what your goal is. Find out what you're here for. Somebody was speaking about that earlier in our weekend. And I already covered this, out of order, but you got the message. Tradition 3. The only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. Relationships, Tradition 3. A key requirement for a good and healthy relationship is a mutual desire to make it work. Now, I'm going to tell you that I am not on my first marriage. I wish that was so. I have so much respect for the people that are married 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 decades. I think that's the hero stuff. Been married 10 years. I'm 64 years old. This is my 3rd marriage. First marriage was made when I was still in my alcoholism. It was sick. It was very, very unhealthy, and it ruined her life. And it parted when I went to prison. We'll hear more about that tomorrow. Unfortunately, my second marriage was while I was sober. I was on a spiritual path that she wasn't on. Tried everything I could, but it takes 2 to work a solution. And I'm not casting blame. I know I have as much blame in the downfall of that marriage. I was 22 years sober when I was divorced. I wish it wasn't so. But if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be in the relationship I'm in now. And I tell you what, I never knew what I was missing until I have the relationship that I have today. It is absolutely off the charts, amazing. I wonder, how this happened except by the grace of God. I don't think I have an answer except by the grace of God. Being willing to go to any length to change any behavior, and I put in of yours, can't change theirs, that is a hindrance to maintaining a happy and healthy relationship is so important. We've got to be able to go to any length, right? We have to do that to stay sober. We have to do that to have a happy and joyful marriage. We practice transparency with our partner. For instance, my wife has the passcodes to all my electronic devices. I have the passcodes to all hers. There's no secrets. She may ask me where I'm going, where I've been. There's no secrets. They don't have to be, because I'm a trustworthy person, because she's a trustworthy person. If you've done anything to damage that, one of the things you can do to repair that is to be transparent, completely transparent with all your devices. One of the things I do on social media, I don't have friends. I don't have single female friends on Facebook. I don't have that many female friends, except in recovery, possibly couples we have, but they can be her friends on Facebook. All of our stuff is joined anyway. It just avoids any appearance of evil. It also avoids any temptation that might come down the road when we're not doing so well. Never been tempted, and I don't want to be. So I don't go to a place where I could be tempted, if that makes sense. There's a book in the last page that about the foundational laws of relationship. I'm going to skip over that for the sake of time. But the laws of priority, pursuit, possession, and purity. We don't possess our partners. All of our possessions are ours jointly, is what that means. Tradition 4. Each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. Relationships, tradition 4. Each partner should be autonomous except in matters affecting the other partner, the family, or relationship as a whole. What does that mean? We each have autonomy unless it adversely affects a partner. I'll give you an example. If you've known me for more than 5 minutes, you probably know that I'm passionate about sobriety, I'm passionate about my wife, I'm passionate about mountain biking, and I love to fish. They're usually in that order. And it's important for me to have time by myself. I love to go mountain biking more than what my wife does. So she allows me the autonomy to do that. TJ has some things that she likes to do. We have a gym at the house. She personally trains clients. They come over to the house and so forth. She loves to be in the gym. I need to be in the gym more. I have no excuse to be fat and sloppy. We have a gym 5 footsteps from my desk, so I'm working on that. We want to have our behaviors be in line with the common purpose to make the relationship work and then do whatever is necessary to achieve that goal. Our freedom through autonomy brings responsibility. We each are responsible to never intentionally do something that would harm the other or our relationship as a whole. It's easy sometimes, and it grieves me to hear guys complain about their wives and some of the jokes that are around, my name's Ron, I'm married, it's been 6 months since my last decision. Things like that, are disparaging towards our wives. Sometimes you hear guys talking in meetings, in open meetings, and just running their spouses over the coals. There's a place for that, and it's with your sponsor, I think, or with a counselor. If you're having those kind of difficulties, perhaps that's a better place to go. I would never want to say something in public that my wife would be embarrassed by, and I hope that she has the same courtesy towards me. AA Tradition 5. Each group has but one primary purpose: to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. Relationships Tradition 5. Each relationship has but one primary purpose: to love and to serve each other as an expression of God's love in our relationship. In order to serve as an expression of God's love, we need to understand that God loves us conditionally, faults and all. That's the kind of love that He models for us to extend towards our spouses. And what is love? Love is patient, love is kind, love does not envy or boast, it is not arrogant or rude, it does not insist on its own way, it is not irritable or resentful, it does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with truth. I want TJ to know that I'm in her corner no matter what. I'm in her corner. Even when she's wrong, I'm going to be in her corner. I'm not going to correct her in public. I'm not going to demean her. I'm not going to yell at her. I'm not going to do those things in public. I wouldn't yell at her in private. Both love and service are action verbs. I love this. I read a story once. This guy went to his counselor, his pastor, and said, I don't love my wife anymore. I don't know what to do. And the counselor, pastor said, go home and love your wife. He said, I don't think you heard what I said. I don't love my wife. He said, I don't think you heard what I said. Go home and love your wife. Love is a verb, just like service are verbs. You don't feel like doing service, do it anyway. Be loving, be a servant, be the partner that your spouse deserves. Tradition 6. An AA group, I'll never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. Relationships Tradition 6. We ought never single-handedly endorse, finance, or lend our name to any outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, or prestige divert us from our commitment to each other. Made a mistake once. I invited a sponsee who needed a place to live in our RV beside our house. That's fine. I should have talked to my wife about that first. It was fine with her. It wasn't fine with her that I made her decision for her. And same thing with me. We are a partnership, and we make decisions together. I wouldn't co-sign a loan for even a family member without talking to her. I wouldn't buy a huge purchase without talking to her. And it's not that I'm asking permission. It's that if you and I were in business together and we had a major expenditure, would you like me to make that purchase without discussing it with you as my partner in this business? I don't think so. It's the same thing in our marriages, same thing in our relationships. And again, we're not seeking permission. We're just being a good partner. Now, this is an area that we're not going to do here because it would just be weird. JB says thanks. I don't think are there any more handouts, Adam? Okay, I think they're all gone, but they're available online. You can get the email at the last page. Take a picture of that, email me, I'll send it to you. What we do, what TJ and I do, and we recommend that you do with your partner, is in the morning, have a 30-second hug. This is really cool stuff. If there's anything going on between you, it's going to become evident because you're going to feel awkward. It's going to feel weird. TJ gets up a little later than me. I'm an early riser, and so I'm usually in my office working. She comes in, and I just get up and we have a 30-second hug. We don't talk about anything. We don't discuss anything. We just hug. That is a great way to start the day. I highly recommend it. That will count for 3 or 4 of those non-sensual touches that you do to your spouse every day. That's huge. And it'll also indicate, give you a little temperature of where your connection is at. If you're having some awkwardness, maybe you guys need to spend some time talking and find out what that awkwardness is about. So usually when we do this in a convention, we ask people to stand up and do that. We say if you're not here with your partner, just make it a shorter hug and walk around, and you say to the people that are alone, we could, I've seen this done before, is just say the simple word, "You're enough. You're enough." If you're like me, you heard for many, many years before you came to this place in your sobriety that you were not enough. We always had to try to prove that we were enough. I even did that in our relationships. I never felt like I was enough. Today I feel like I'm enough. And the reason is because God has brought me to a place to allow me to receive that. I hope you get to that same place. I think that's the driving force of carrying the message of AA and carrying this message of traditions and relationships is both TJ and I really want you to have what God has blessed us with. Want you to have everything you can get out of sobriety, everything you can get out of a healthy relationship. We want you to be fully happy, joyous, and free because, you know, it's there. It's available if we just do the work. Don't complain about the benefits you don't get from the work you don't do, right? Tradition 7. Every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. Relationships, tradition 7. Each partner ought to strive to be fully self-supporting spiritually, emotionally, and physically. This is where codependency comes from. We're not advocating that. Unlike the application of tradition 7 to an AA group, we do not believe that each partner in a relationship should be financially self-supporting. It's our position that we're a partnership. Partnerships are mutually supporting. It's what has worked for us. It's what worked in material that we have shared, that we've read and studied. That's material that we're bringing to you. If it's working otherwise for you, that's fantastic. Most people, this is a model that works. Each partner's identity and sense of worth comes from his or her relationship with God, not from the other partner. How many of you, like me, sought the validation, sought your self-worth from a woman? How many of you, I'll raise my hand to that one, how many of you fell short because they fell short? If I look for my value, my worth anywhere outside of my relationship with God, it's going to leave me wanting. We believe that we are here to enhance each other's lives, not to be each other's lives. You know, we're so grateful that we did the work in recovery before we got together. Our relationship comes together like this, not like that. And we're separate people, but we are mutually, we benefit each other by coming together. We are responsible for ourselves, our own spiritual and emotional growth. We cannot blame others, especially our partner, for our own troubles. Easy to do. Again, go to the diagram. That seems to have worked for a lot of people before us. Neither of us should do anything to control or limit our partner's growth for us to avoid being hurt or frightened. Sometimes, you know, I get to travel, and TJ's a wonderful speaker. I get to listen to her story, and I'm never threatened by her success as a circuit speaker because we're not in competition. That's a neat place to be. The individual responsibility advocated by this tradition should not detract from our unity or togetherness. Self-supporting should not be detrimental to the relationship as a whole. Tradition 8. 8 and 9 go together pretty closely. I'm going to kind of show you how those are joined. AA Tradition 8, Alcoholics Anonymous should remain never, forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. Relationships Tradition 8. Our relationship should remain forever equal and free. Neither of us is a boss of the relationship. There's a quote I love and I memorized that I thought was pretty cool. We have different roles in our marriage, and it works for us, and it's a model that worked for so many people before us, but neither one of us are superior. Specifically, even though I'm the leader, a spiritual head of my house, it doesn't mean that I'm greater than her. This quote was written by a guy named Matthew Henry. He lived back in the 1600s, I believe. He was a Bible commentator, a theologian, but his words were this: "Woman was not made from the head of man to rule over him, or from the foot of man to be trodden over by him. She was made from the rib of man to walk beside him in equality, close to his heart, to be loved by him, and under his arm to be protected by him. So it defines the roles that we have, not a superior, inferiority, or inferior position. And I think it did a good job with that. Your wife is not a professional cook, house cleaner, vacuum cleaner, or anything else. She's also not your mistress. She's not a prostitute. We have roles in the house, and we should assume those roles. Now, we just fell into a pattern. I do most of the outside stuff. She does most of the inside stuff. I don't mind doing laundry and dishes. I do. I don't know how to run the vacuum cleaner. She doesn't know how to run the lawnmower, but she's not adverse from doing that if it needed to be done. We had a hurricane come through, and we were cleaning up for 10 hours out in the yard, and we went out there and worked together on that. But we are partners, but she's not my servant, and she's not hired help, and I'm not her hired help. So whenever she does something, I thank her. Whenever I cut the grass, she thanks me. It's just a word. Hey, the grass looks really good. That really makes me feel respected, which one of my core needs. And when she does something around the house and I say thank you, she has her security need met, and she feels fulfilled. Thank you. If your spouse is in sobriety, congratulations. I think that's the best way to go. If not, it presents a whole different set of issues. But that diagram still works for you. Whether your spouse or your partner is on a plan of recovery, if you both are working towards a closer relationship to God, you will inevitably go closer together. I never tell TJ when it's time to see her sponsor. She never tells me that. May think that. I keep it inside, and I know that she thinks that often. She keeps that inside. We're not each other's sponsors. We're not responsible for each other's sobriety, happiness, or fulfillment. When we each are living by the principle of the 12 steps and traditions, we have a great relationship with God and have a sense of serenity and peace with our partner and our fellow man. I'm going to skip a little bit for time. I see that we're running short. Tradition 9. AA as such ought never been organized, but we may create service boards and committees directly responsible for those they serve. Relationships, Tradition 9. A relationship should be flexible in its organization, but our group conscience may appoint certain persons to be responsible to serve various purposes. I take out the trash. That's kind of my assignment. She vacuums, kind of her assignment. We come into that mutual agreement, that conscious decision that's our God conscious check. That's kind of how we run things, and it works. She does the budgeting, and I work long hours. She works long hours. She does the marketing of the business, and I do the litigation aspect of the business. We have these different roles. We do have organization, and that's cool, but we don't work for each other. Tradition 10. This is a good one, especially if you have a Republican and Democrat in your house. Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues, hence the AA name ought never been drawn into public controversy. Relationships, Tradition 10. We are each entitled to our own opinion on outside issues, hence our name ought never be drawn into public controversy. We agree politically, I joke about that, but if we didn't, that's not a basis for separation. It's not a basis for division. It doesn't need to be. We just have different opinions on that. If we did, we can have different opinions on outside issues. It doesn't have to come in. The purity of AA has lived by that motto and that tradition. I love the saying that the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous is what's kept us from suicide, and the 12 traditions are what keeps us from homicide. And it's so true. It keeps things working properly. And I think it was divinely inspired. So let's move on to 11. Okay, this is actually part of 10. We do not air our dirty laundry publicly. And I don't have any right to start displaying and distributing TJ's opinion on issues. That's her opinion, not mine. We always try to be courteous. The very essence of Alcoholics Anonymous and the Al-Anon family groups is treating all others, with patience, tolerance, courtesy, and kindness. A quiet, composed response will dampen anger. It adds to our dignity and stature when we can avoid saying things we will surely regret. And tolerance doesn't equal agreement. We can be tolerant of others' opinions and positions and worldviews, etc., without co-signing them. That's not what tolerance is. It seems to me sometimes the people who advocate the most tolerance are the most intolerant. And I don't want to be that way. Tradition 11. Our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity to level press, radio, and films. Relationships tradition 11. We attract our partner in our relationship by loving them rather than promoting ourselves by coercion, manipulation, force. We maintain personal anonymity in our relationship by keeping our partner's confidence and trust. You know, I never want to, I don't want to violate my wife's trust. She can tell me things that'll never go anywhere and vice versa. I want her to be my confidant. I want to be her confidant. We try to be our very best and attractive for our partners. I want to try to conduct myself today the way I conducted myself 10 years ago when we first met. You know, one of the things I do, and I encourage you to do it, I open the door for her. When we're going out shopping, when we're going out of the house, I open her car door. Here's the deal. It's a very small thing. She's fully capable of opening her own door. It's not a slight. You know how many times I've heard when we've gone out to dinner, we're coming from a meeting or whatever we're at, other guys' wives, other guys' girlfriends saying, "Wow, did you see that? He opened the door for her." Wouldn't you like your wife, your spouse, your partner to say that? And I know it seems maybe like a little inconvenience. It's a little thing. It means a lot just to do those little acts of courtesies. She's always complimenting me. And it's not because I feel like I'm so insecure that I need that, but that really makes me feel respected and appreciated. And it's little things like that to just make us, I think, great partners. I don't ever want to take her for granted. I don't want to be complacent. I think complacency is the number one enemy of long-term sobriety. If I ever feel like I've made it, I haven't. If I ever feel like I will never lose my wife, I could. I never want to become complacent. I always want to be moving forward. It's kind of like riding a bicycle, something I love to do. If you're going up a hill, if you stop pedaling, what's going to happen? Yeah, or fall over. So I just keep pedaling. It's a lot easier to keep the momentum going. Let's see if there's something there I want to... Keeping a positive attitude about halfway down and not always complaining when things are not as we would have them. I find it much more important to be unified than right. A week from now, being right on this particular issue probably is not going to mean a whole lot, but the fact that we're unified will. Tradition 12. Anonymity is a spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities. Relationships tradition 12. Anonymity or selflessness is the spiritual foundation of our way of life as partners, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities. Almost every meeting we hear those words. We try to apply these principles in all our affairs. And I'm telling you that if you stick around long enough, if you've been around here for a while already, you've seen people that have been good at applying these principles in their lives. They have successful businesses, they have successful marriages, they have successful sobriety, they have quality sobriety. People are seeking them out because there's something attractive about them, something that they have that other people want. You hear that statement when you're new in the program looking for a sponsor. Find someone who has what you want and ask them to be your sponsor. I had a guy come and we were sitting in my living room and he said, I heard that thing and I knew you had what I wanted, so I wanted to ask you to be my sponsor. And I said, what was it that I had? He said, well, first TJ, your wife. And I said, hold up. That's not what it's talking about, and you're not going to get her. But he backed up, and it's not what he meant at all, but it's what it sounded like. So what does it mean to practice these principles? Surely the 12 steps are principles, and each one of them has a spiritual principle behind it. Really quickly, I'll give you just an outline. You can read about these later. There's a book in your suggested readings, a principle approach. But honesty is step one. Hope, faith, courage, Where'd my page go? There we go. Integrity, willingness, humility, love. Let me touch on integrity for a little bit. All of us are on a weekend away from our wives. Some of us are doing things that we shouldn't be doing. Some of us are not being men of integrity. Isn't that our goal, to be men of integrity and honor? Anything you do when you're not away from your wife, I hope, or your spouse or your partner, I hope that you're willing to share that with them. I never want to do something that I wouldn't want her to be sitting beside me doing, except maybe using the restroom. That we don't do. But you get my meaning. Are you texting someone you shouldn't be texting? Are you talking to someone you shouldn't be talking to? Are you planning on stopping someplace you shouldn't stop on the way home? Those are the things you do to develop trust and be a man of integrity. And integrity is defined in my book of when you're not being watched, when you're all alone, if you still act right. Discipline, perseverance, God consciousness, and service. Read about those a little bit later. Here's a neat example that was given to me, and I thought it made a lot of sense. If you take a sponge and you drop that sponge in nice, clean spring water, and then you squeeze it, what's going to come out? The answer is on the board. Nice, clean spring water, right? You take that same sponge and you dip it in muddy, dirty water, what's going to happen? It's true, that analogy, that illustration is true in our sobriety. It's true in our relationship and our growth towards a higher consciousness with God, as it defined in step 11. It's also true in our relationship. You're going to get out of your relationship, you're going to get out of your sobriety, you're going to get out of your growth towards being a spiritual man exactly what you put in. What you put in, you're going to get out. So get the good things. You know, sometimes as guys, we're so much more inclined to, I want to get the best fuel for my boat. I want to get the best parts for my truck when I get it fixed, and yet I just throw a hamburger down my throat and don't think about a thing, right? Or I don't take the time to be considered about what I'm putting into my relationship. And I think that preparing this material, going over this material every once in a while, helps me to stay focused on putting in my relationship what I want to get out of my relationship. I can't expect to have a wonderful partner if I'm not willing to do the work necessary to be a wonderful partner. And that's what I want to do. So, falling in love is wonderful, exciting. It's great. If you haven't done it yet, I highly suggest it. When you get a little sobriety, I'm a big book believer. I know in a big book it doesn't say you have to wait a year. I think it's a great suggestion. It's not in a big book, in 164 pages. The reason for that is you're going through so many changes, so many vast changes. I'm so grateful that I had some sobriety behind me, and I had good quality sobriety behind me because of the men that I followed in this program and followed their instructions. I was ready to meet one of God's special daughters that He wanted to give me. If you're a father, you're not going to throw your son the keys to your new truck until you know he's going to handle it right. Am I right? If our Father, the Creator that the big book talks about, has a special daughter that He is prepared for you, He's not going to trust you with her until you're ready. And if you're already in a relationship and you're wanting to improve, these guidelines that I'm sharing with you, again, I'm not the author of them, I'm just bringing them, they will bring you to a place that you can have that kind of quality relationship, that kind of quality, lifelong partnership that we're talking about. And there's something for you to take back if you're in a relationship. It's one of the last pages there. It's something that I wrote that took all the 12 spiritual principles of the program and put it into a pledge. The pledge is kind of a dedication that you and your wife, your spouse, your partner can write. And there's places there for a couple signatures. And I highly suggest you do that together. This is meant to go through together. If you do that, the questions that you have in your outline, some of the things are challenging. Some of the things will cause you to grow. I found that I grow most when I'm uncomfortable. So I just want to encourage you. Same thing that I believe in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed this path. We get into trouble when we follow different paths. We get in trouble when we're not thorough. and these principles can apply to your relationship, you can have a relationship that rocks. And if you already do, it can get better. So this is what I wanted to share. Thank you so much. Why don't we close, I think, with we'll just circle up and we'll say the Lord's Prayer together, and we'll close out.